Thank you, Jorge. I'm just sitting here thinking, wow, this is the second time I've been to church on a Sunday. If my friends could see me now. So, well, happy new quiz or happy new breath. That's what I like to say, happy new quiz or happy new breath. Very lovely to be with you today. And yes, I'm sitting outside as I was teaching on African wisdom earlier today. So I'm going to begin with a land acknowledgement. Yeah, because we all reside on the earth. So just take a moment to sense into the land on which you walk with, in which you breathe with, and which you live with. I'm zooming in from the stolen Uvatium Merengium Desert, which is the home of the Serrano, who are an indigenous group that have spiritual connection to the land and still practice traditional ceremonies and rituals today. Let's take a moment to recognize the lands that were stolen by the colonizers and claimed by the colonizers. As we breathe, we remember we cannot own the land owns us. As we breathe, we remember we cannot own the land owns us. As we breathe, we remember we cannot own the land, and the land owns us. And so we'll just move into our meditative practice for the day. So becoming aware of this body. I was wondering for a moment if you could actually just think of this glorious body, this body. Yeah. And it's glorious because we have the potential, the possibility to change. And not one body is perfect. Yeah. Each and every one of us will be working with some idiosyncratic thing about the body. So feeling the length of your body, head poised towards the sky, and feet poised towards the earth. And feel the width of the body. Take up space. Yeah. You can spend too much time trying to make the physical body smaller or trying to make the emotional or psychological body smaller. And I'm inviting you to take up space and just really live and breathe fully into your body. We are energy. We are space. We are infinite. We are energy. We are space. We are infinite. So inviting you to follow the breath. When a thought arises, notice. Just notice. Don't demonize the thought. Thought has arisen. Everything is welcome. And when we notice a thought has arisen, we gently go back to the breath. We may spend our whole time sitting or lying down or even standing wherever you are, habitually going back to the breath. Each time you notice awareness has been directed to thought or to a memory or to a sound, just notice, oh, I've left the breath. Use the breath as your focus. Allow your distractions just to be a wave of energy. So while you're sitting, focusing on the breath, and you notice that your mind has got caught up in thinking, oh, just a wave of energy. Allow it to arise and cease and come back to the breath. The mind will get distracted because that's what the mind loves to do. And that's okay. Just notice it's distracted and come back to the breath. I really want to invite you to make every effort to keep on coming back to the breath. Yeah. If you've only come back to the breath once in this past few minutes, then you got lost in distraction somewhere. So really, keep on coming back to the breath and smile every time you notice you're distracted. Smile and smile, coming back to the breath. Really see if you can enjoy just breathing. And really see if you can notice the touch of the breath on the upper lip. Sometimes when we breathe in, it will feel cool, and as we breathe out, it will feel warmer. Really see if you can connect to the sensation of the touch of the breath on the upper lip. If you're really struggling to connect to the breath there, let go of the struggle in the mind and drop into the abdomen and become aware of the touch of the breath in the abdomen, rising and falling. And again, enjoy breathing. Breath is medicine. And as you breathe, ask yourself this question. Is there just breathing happening? Or is there a breather? And if there is a breather, who is the breather? Or is just breathing happening? And remember to breathe as you reflect. Those of you who found a breather, you might ask yourself then, if you are in control of the breathing, how comes we die? Because if we were in control of the breathing and there was a breather, we would never die. So really just see if you can just allow breathing to happen. We don't have to do the breathing. Breathing just happens. Breath is medicine. And where is the breath anyway? If you were to point to the breath, what would you point to? So just allow breathing to happen. Come back to the breathing body, experiencing the whole body breathing. As we begin to bring this practice to a close, just remembering that this body belongs to the earth. We are earth. We are water. 85–90% of this body is water. We belong to the water. We are heat, fire. Yeah. We could not live without the earth, without water, without warmth. The body would not survive. We are the wind too. We are not separate from these elements. So just having gratitude for these elements. When you're back outside, walk with the earth, walk with the wind, with the sun, with the water. We are not separate. We are interconnected. And all the elements are medicine. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. So gently stretch the body. Gently move the body. And stretch the body. And feel into that space. Yeah. Okay. Before I begin the Dharma talk, and just it's lovely to see some familiar names and faces here. So hello to those of you who know me. Yeah, thank you for that wave. Yeah. Um, yeah. So always after kind of a more than insight practice, with meditation, there are samatha practices, which are practices to calm the mind. And then there are vipassana practices, which are insight practices. And we kind of moved from samatha into insight. So some of you may have felt uncomfortable or etc. So just there's a couple of people who want to share before we move on, or if they found that difficult. Anybody raise your hand? $79 of you. Yeah, one of you. Take the courage to raise your hand. There's always a dialogue. If you found it really uncomfortable, disconcerting, just know whenever you speak into the space, there will always be more than one person who resonates with you. So I'm going to actually read an excerpt from my latest book, which is called A First Aid Kit for the Mind, Breaking Habitual Behaviors, that was published earlier this year. So I'm going to firstly read a bit from here. So I hope you enjoy being read to. Trauma arises when the heart-mind disconnects, leading to a profound rupture in our emotional landscape. We have learned to push the heart out of our mind, leaving us with just rational thoughts or irrational thoughts that can torment us. For the mind to heal, it needs to embrace the heart with breath and compassion. We push the heart out by not breathing deeply and by holding onto our breath. There is so much scientific research proving the benefits of breathing deeply and working with the breath. People over the past 10 years have been inspired by the Wim Hof method of breathing, which teaches us to inhale deeply and exhale without forcing the breath out. And there's been a plethora of training programs teaching people breathing techniques like pranayama breathing, holotropic breathing, or box breathing. We know that when the brain doesn't get enough oxygen, it causes brain damage. Every time we get angry, every time we act out of resentment or get out of control with an emotion, it's almost like having temporary brain damage. Our breathing becomes restricted. We take shorter in-breaths, and this impacts the brain. Early signs of oxygen deprivation can be a change in the heart rate, being unable to think clearly, seeing spots, an inability to follow directions, decreased judgment, or awareness seizures. Does that sound familiar at all? Take a moment and clench your fist, just like I'm doing now. Just really invitation to clench your fist really, 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 really tight. And you may notice that you're holding your breath. Yeah, because this is what's happened when we get activated. We tighten up and we stop breathing at full capacity. The breath or the breathing is the way back to our body. When we allow ourselves to breathe fully and experience the touch of breathing, we will find our way back home to the body. Coming home to the body means coming home to breathing. Okay. So, breath as medicine. The Buddha, I believe, was teaching us to soothe the body, heart, mind by the simple touch of the breath, of breathing, by the simple sensation of coming back to the breath. it's said that the prince became awake, became enlightened when they were doing the practice of the anapanasati, which is the mindfulness of breathing. Yeah. And it's a practice which is in 16 stages, 4 tetrads. I'm going to speak about this practice. The Buddha begins with kaya, which is the body, and invites us to train ourselves in noticing simply the length of the breath, simply noticing if it's a short breath, a long breath, and an in-between breath. But it's really inviting us to investigate the breath, which again, investigation is one of the 7 factors of awakening. Yeah. And we're really beginning to teach us to really get intimate with the breath. I mean, how often are we aware of ourselves breathing? The Buddha's teaching us to become aware of the quality of the breathing and for us to learn to experience the whole body breathing. How often are we aware of our whole body breathing? So many of us hold our breath, hold our stomach in, we try and make ourselves smaller, we hold our breath, and we're just not aware of the whole body breathing. And again, the Buddha's teaching us to use the breath to tranquilize the formation of the body, to calm the body. So again, you know, it's medicine. I always love to quote Angel Kyoto Williams. Many years ago, I heard her saying, you know, we come into the world with a breath of inspiration and we leave the world with a breath of expiration. Yeah. And what are we doing in between those 2 bookends? We're breathing. That's what we're doing. Yeah, learning to breathe, learning to experience the body. And I think it's so interesting because actually, when I was really thinking about this practice of the anapanasati, I was thinking that actually this first tetrad maps onto the first noble truth for me. Because the first noble truth is that our lives are characterized by suffering. It's not saying that life is suffering, but it's saying that our lives are characterized by suffering, feeling unsatisfied. Yeah, that Buddhist word for unsatisfactory is dukkha. So again, while the Buddha isn't saying life is suffering, the Buddha is really pointing to the fact that because we have this body, it's going to age, it's going to get sick, and it's going to die. The one thing that we can be certain about is that our death. And so in a way, it's interesting that the Buddha's teaching us to breathe through the body because this is the place, the suffering, because that body is changing. And I was thinking of Kisagotami, and I won't go through the whole story of Kisagotami, but those of you who are aware of some of the stories during the Buddha's time, and Kisagotami was this was most probably a Brahmin who really wanted a child, couldn't give birth, and then gave birth to this beautiful boy child. And guess what? A week later, this boy child dies. This child dies. And Kisagotami is completely deranged. Of course, somebody dies and this, just a week old and this baby dies. And it's like, who can make this baby alive? And she runs out of the house with this dead baby on her shoulder, asking people, please make this baby alive. And one person takes pity on her and says, there's a teacher, there's a shaman, there's a teacher in the next village. Maybe he can help you. because during that time, the Buddha was seen as a healer, seen as a shaman, seen as a spiritual teacher. And Kisagotami is so pleased that somebody might help her. I said I wasn't going to tell the whole story, but here we are. It's unfolding. So Kisagotami gets to the next village. There's a whole crowd around the Buddha. She pushes her way through the crowd and is in front of the Buddha and says, please make my baby alive. Please make my baby alive. And the Buddha looks at her, takes pity upon her, and he says, if you can find a mustard seed from a house that has not known death, I will make your baby alive. And Kisagotami is just, she's exhilarated. She drops the baby, she runs through the crowd, she goes from door to door in the village, knocking on the door. People open the door. Do you have a mustard seed? And the people say, yes. Have you known death? And the people say, yes. And she goes from door to door. Do you have a mustard seed? Yes. Have you known death? Yes. And door to door. And at some point, she just gets it. She gets it. And she goes back to the Buddha. And she thanks the Buddha. And she picks up the baby and buries the baby and becomes a follower of the Buddha. Yeah. Let's just take a moment. As we hear that, may our body be steeped with loving kindness as we remember. Notice what we're feeling in the body. May our body be steeped in loving kindness. May compassion set us free. And may we be at peace. And may we find joy. May we be inspired by another person's joy. Moving into the second tetrad, Vedana, the Buddha teaches us to breathe through feelings, breathe through the experience of rapture, breathe through the experience of bliss without attaching to rapture and bliss, without not really trying to make it happen. And when mental formation arises, we bring it into our awareness and we learn to soothe mental formation with the breath. And again, this stage for me maps onto the second noble truth of craving, of clinging. Our feelings, if we don't pay wise attention to our feelings, we will be assailed by both craving and clinging. Yeah, we have to pay attention to Vedana, and Vedana is hedonic tone in the body. And Vedana can give rise, can give rise to hatred, it can give rise to anger, as well as Vedana can give rise to rapture. Vedana can give rise to bliss. We know when something hard happens, we feel it in the body and we have aversion. We go into aversion, we try to push it away. We try push away. And we go into aversion and we go into anger and we go into hatred. And we have to pay wise attention to what's happening in the body and give it some compassion and allow it to be here. It's okay to be uncomfortable. It's part of my practice. I'm still learning to be with discomfort, still learning to be with discomfort and do nothing. It's the hardest thing to do when we are experiencing all that yucky sensations in the body. How do we stay with those yucky sensations in the body? And what we do is we push them away because they're so painful to experience. And that's when we go into the anger, when we go into the craving, because we want something different. Yeah. And actually, if we could learn to be with that hedonic tone in the body, it's amazing what can arise. Actually, we can actually move into peace. We can actually move into the bliss. The third tetrad teaches us to breathe through the heart-mind chitta. Yeah. I know in a Western context, we often tend to separate the heart is one thing and the mind is another thing. And in Eastern context, heart-mind is one, has always been one. And maybe we include the gut in that, heart-mind gut, you know. There's a lot more scientific research which is saying that the gut is the new mind. Yeah. And in this tetrad, we are learning to gladden the heart mind, to experience the heart mind. Yeah. There is lots of joy on the path. And the only way we can really begin to learn to gladden the heart mind, to begin to experience the heart mind, is to just welcome anything that arises, because if we do nothing, it will cease. The only reason why it persists is because we push it away. There is that saying, isn't there? If we resist, it will persist. Yeah. And just know, if we allow the natural law of gravity to take place, what goes up must come down. So just know, what comes up in the mind, if we leave it alone, will go down into nothingness. Always have that image of bubbles, you know, when you blow a bubble and then it pops into nothingness. And that's the same, that our thoughts can pop into nothingness, and we can begin to gladden the heart mind, experience the heart mind. And then what we do here is really see if we can concentrate the heart mind and liberate the mind from samsara. Yeah. And so in this tetrad, we're learning to let go of any identification of feelings, of thoughts, of emotions, letting go of clinging on to, this is wrong, it should never have happened. Letting go of clinging on to our anger, onto our frustration, or even letting go of clinging on to joy. Because just as joy and bliss arise, if we do nothing, it will cease again. Yeah. And so we're learning to let go of, this is me, this is mine, this is I. And in the Buddha's words, the Buddha said, this is not me, this is not mine, this is not I. And for me, this maps onto the third truth, the third noble truth, the end of suffering. Because if we are able to stop identifying with our thoughts, there is an end of suffering. You know, I'm just moving into more of a place of peace, but you know, over the Christmas period, I was really suffering because a friend didn't behave in a way that I wanted them to behave. And I just got into the stories and stories of, like, I'm right here. And I just kept on identifying with my story. And the more I identified with the story, the more the suffering it created. It was painful. But then beginning to release and beginning to let go of the story is an end of suffering. So we can think of an end of suffering in small places. We don't have to think of it in a macro level, but on a micro level, we can begin to have an end of suffering, an end of craving, an end. And I just want to talk about King Ashoka, because there's a lot of suffering out there in the world with so many wars. so many genocides happening out in the world. And King Ashoka was a king in India, and he was responsible for bringing the second wave of Buddhism back to India, because the first wave of Buddhism died out, and then King Ashoka brought it back. And King Ashoka, he was a general, he was an army. He committed a lot of genocide. Craving. You know, why do people go for war? Craving for certain things, greed, hatred, and delusion. As Martin Luther King says, one of the poisons, one of the three poisons is militarism. And we can see that poison happening out in the world today. And King Ashoka was responsible for that militarism. And and also the other two poisons, King Ashoka, Martin Luther King spoke about the other poison being racism and poverty. And that racism just played out for so many centuries. And King Ashoka was also responsible for that racism, casteism, greed. And one day he's walking through a field strewn by dead bodies, and suddenly seeing the impact of this genocide that he had been responsible for. Yeah. And he woke up to the truth and stopped, literally stopped. Yeah. Ended a particular kind of suffering and stopped, and was then responsible for building these stupas in India. So again, an end of suffering. Yeah. So moving in to the final tetrad. In this tetrad, we reflect on the objects of the mind, sometimes called dhammas, reflecting on the phenomena of impermanence, really seeing if we can experience impermanence as empty of any durable substance. Yeah. Everything changes. I need to remember that. Actions have consequences is easier. I used to battle with that. But I know still there's time. I'm not in acceptance of time, that everything changes. And in this practice, we are training ourselves to reflect on fading away, standing back from the perpetuation of samsara in relationship to the world, fading away. And we can even see that sometimes I do it on a personal level of what's fading away in this body. Yeah. As I've moved into that 6th decade, yeah, I know that my eyes aren't the same. They're fading away. Yeah. They're not the same as what they were 20 years ago, 10 years ago. Even my hearing is beginning to fade away, and to come into acceptance of that. Because if I push it away, I will create my own samsara. Yeah. And then there is the cessation. Yeah. The end, the cessation, bringing samsara to a complete standstill. Stepping out of being involved in samsara, stepping out of being involved in that stinking thinking that goes around and around and around in our head. Samsara and nirvana is right here now. And often we are living in samsara, and those of you who are Buddhist practitioners, you're most probably living in sweetened up samsara. And I say that because I know I have learned to sweeten up samsara. Yeah. We do it all the time. For example, it's like we talk about flying and, we shouldn't fly, but, pay a carbon tax. That makes us feel better. We'll pay a carbon tax. So we've just sweetened up samsara, just to make it manageable for us. Yeah. So in this practice, we reflect on impermanence, fading away, relinquishing all identification with our thoughts, our feelings, which can create samsara. Yeah. And this liberation comes from letting go of clinging to fixed notions of self and the world. And for me, this maps on to the fourth noble truth, because the fourth noble truth is the way out, is the way out of suffering. And hopefully we'll have that vision, we have that vision that it's possible, that it is possible to have an end of suffering. This is what the Prince, this is what the Prince taught us. If we look at how the Prince got to become awake and to be a Buddha, it wasn't through having a hunky-dory, wonderful time and being in the God realm. No, actually, there were times the Prince was in the hell realm, but he didn't attach to any of the realms. Yeah. The Prince faced the suffering in forms of ill will, in forms of boredom, in forms of sense desire, in forms of lust. Face that without identifying with, And so this is why breathing is our medicine. Come into relationship with breathing. And just some loving kindness. May your mind, heart, body, gut be steeped in loving kindness. May compassion, inner compassion, set you free. May you experience the joy of another and have the joy for another. And may you be at ease and have peace. May all blessings be yours. May all gods protect you. By the power of all Buddhas, may all happiness be yours. May all blessings be yours. May all goddesses protect you. By the power of all dhammas, may all happiness be yours. May all blessings be yours. May all gods and goddesses protect you. By the power of all sanghas, may all happiness be yours. And so, in completing this Dharma talk, just remind us of the first paramita, generosity, that these teachings are given freely. Yeah. And actually, dana is a very interesting concept. Yeah. It's a form of renunciation. Giving is always a form of renunciation. Yeah. What are we prepared to renounce? Yeah. And so just to remind you that the dana that you give today, 65% of it will go to Sangha Live and 35% will go to me. And that 35% that will go to me will help me to continue to pass on the teachings. to help me continue to really help all beings be liberated and free. So I take this moment to thank you for the dana that you offer today. And just reminding us the fact that you are here is an aspect of dana. And of course, if you're able to give something, that also is an aspect of dana. Yeah. Okay. So we have time for questions and reflections. Val, I'm just encouraging you to look into the chat. There's been a lot of love sent you in the chat and for you to scroll through the chat. Okay. So, somebody, is that Zena? Sorry, I can't see the first part of your name. The last
Ariana.
part. Tell me your name.
Ariana.
Ariana. Thank you, Ariana.
I recently in October went on a 7-day silent meditation, Maranasati meditation on death retreat at Spirit Rock.
Mm-hmm.
And I have struggled to maintain my practice. But today was my first Sangha, so I wanted to thank you for holding space and just gratitude to everyone for being part of this.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ariana. I can remember the days of going on really strong retreats and it's like, yes, I'm going to practice and blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, a week later, it's like, oh, and actually it was really connecting with the Sangha. And even if I just went once a week, it kept the practice alive. So yeah, but well done for coming back. Happy new quiz. Okay.
Thank you.
So some of you have been listening. Some of you will have thoughts that went through your mind. To always hear your reflections or something that didn't resonate for you, or yeah. So let's hear from some of you. So 75 of you. Yeah, how many of you are going to drop away and think, oh, no, I don't like this bit? Yeah. So, somebody's just asked me to put an email in chat for e-transfer. Oh, that must be that must be Canada. We do e-transfers there. That's just my email. So yeah, we donate straight through to the link there, which can be, yeah. So let's hear from some of you. You've been listening. Yeah. Any thoughts, any reflections, or you may have a question that had nothing to do. Well, I always say that whatever your question is, you might think it's not related to what we've spoken about, but it is, because that's what arose while you were here. So let's see.
I have a question if nobody else wants to ask anything.
Thank you, Ariana.
Similar to Val, I noticed a lot of grief coming up during my sit, and I was curious about when that's happening, do you return to the breath or do you sort of sit with the grief?
Thank you. Yeah, when the grief is happening, is to allow the grief to be there and give yourself some inner compassion. And it may be just, for me, where I often experience grief is in the throat, and just placing a hand there and just breathing into that part to give it space, but just giving it some kindness. So, in a way, it's like recognizing the grief, allowing it to be there. Yeah. These practices are strong practices. And in a way, it's sometimes we think, oh, grief, it's uncomfortable, something's wrong, but that's the practice working. Yeah, it's working, it's medicine. Yeah, thank you. So just before I go to Terry, Val, I'm just wondering, how are you now? How are you doing?
Because of the love and the support of the group, of the Sangha, as well as this meeting today, I feel like I can breathe.
Yeah.
I can breathe again. I can really go,
Mm,
and I can go step into those feelings. Someone in the group gave me Thich Nhat Hanh's writing on when a loved one dies. So of course I'm ordering that. But I
mm,
feel that I don't have to be afraid of death. It's not about being
mm,
afraid of it. It's about
mm,
understanding it and
mm,
understanding that we have
mm,
no what we have control over and what we don't.
mm.
And I have some more meditating to do after
Yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah. Great.
Wonderful.
Yes, you don't have to be afraid of death, and it's natural to feel the pain and the grief. Yeah,
Yes.
it's natural. Yeah. And so again, I just saw here, so accept the grief and meditate. Actually, it may be, if the grief is strong, that you stop meditating formally, but you just come into relationship with the grief. And if you need to move, then you need to move. Yeah. Rather than thinking, I've got to carry on sitting here. Okay. So Terry, you had your hand up and now you've disappeared. Are you still there? Do you have, oh, there you are. Terry, yeah. Do you want to turn your microphone on?
Hi, Val. I get starstruck when I talk to famous people. Um, I really loved what you said to Val, but more importantly is why I loved it. When you said you're not drinking right now.
Mm,
I have been in recovery from alcoholism for 16 years myself. I was able to do that through the AA program and the higher power, but I've also been working in the recovery field for the past 8 years.
mm,
And I think that that's something I might be able to say
mm,
to clients from now on. And we're supposed to use motivational interviewing, which means not fixing, not directing, not you shoulding, but just coming to where the person is at the moment in their suffering and kind of just getting in there with their suffering with them. Because if you don't do that first, there's really nothing else you can do for them. So I just thought that that was a really powerful way to do that. And I
mm,
think I'm going to take that with me and use it in my work. You're not drinking today or right now. And the way you said it was just so encouraging.
mm. Thank you,
Thank you.
Terry. Thank you, Terry. I want you to take a look at me for a moment and just take a look. Yeah. And just know that we are not separate. I just coming back, we're not separate. I'm in training to become a nobody. We're not separate. I shit, I fart, I burp. I'm human, just like you. Okay. All right.
Thanks.
Blessings.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Somebody else. Any reflections? Hmm.
Hi, sorry. I don't know if you can see me.
I can, Jane. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Vimalasara, is that how you say it? Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
perfect.
do triathlon. So I've been to the London Buddhist Centre actually. So
Oh, lucky
yeah,
you. Yeah.
been really grateful. Yeah. Yeah, I like what you said about reminding us that we don't own the land, because I've worked with Indigenous groups. I think I've seen that you do the same, because there isn't that belief in ownership of the land. It's a kind of a collective, and we're the kind of guardians of the land, and that the land owns up, owns us, and we're part of the earth. That really resonated with me, and I think it was a good reminder to people, because these days everything seems to be about money and ownership, and it seems very shallow sometimes. Everything's about social media and money, and and we all want sort of more than that. I think we need more than that, because we're humans. Or we forget we're animals sometimes. We're a being. We're losing connectivity of what we are, I think, and the natural world as well. So yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Thank you for sharing that. And you're actually positioned next door to a dear friend of mine, Marina. So hi, Marina. Just like you're just banging, you don't get to, so, because you're on two screens, not to see everybody. So just hi. Yeah. Yeah.
Lovely
We
seeing
must
you.
connect. Yeah.
We must connect. Happy
Yes.
belated birthday.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Any other reflections? Any thoughts? Yeah. How are those of you who are situated in the US, not all of you, how are you feeling about the new administration that's coming in? Yeah, it's a real change. And how do we keep our equilibrium? Yeah. Yeah, and not to assume, because there are some people here on this call who may not be experiencing fear or threat. Yeah, so to always to remember that as well. But yeah, just to change, this thing, there's a big change happening in the world globally, where there's a particular kind of politic which is beginning to dominate. Yeah, yeah. So it's a real change happening. Yeah, yeah. Patrice.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, I'm one of the people living in the US, being very disturbed by what's going on here. And I was really shocked the first time that this happened. And I'm even more shocked now because of the huge number of people who seem to think that this is the right thing to happen. And so being in groups like the Sangha and other groups. I'm in the Bay Area of San Francisco. And so thankfully there are many people who believe similarly to the way that I do, and to find that community and to really, I think, believe in what's important and what's true, and caring about people. I have a master's degree in social justice leadership, so that tells you, I think, enough about the way that I feel about things. But I really appreciate the way that you were leading things today about it. It gave me a different take on the breath, if I could say that. It was, all of the Buddhist sessions that I go to are often focusing on breathing, but I like the way that you went about it, and just the way of thinking about it was a bit new for me. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Yeah, the breath is a political act, as we know. We use many stories of people, I can't breathe, you know. So to be able to reclaim the breath. And I was just on a call with an elder, Louisa Tish. Some of you might know who Louisa Tish is. And she reminded us to remember our ancestors who have been perhaps through worse, you know, and all of us have had ancestors who perhaps uh, had to survive war, had to survive genocide, had to survive enslavement, had to survive the Holocaust, had to survive famine, etc. And we survived. We stand on the shoulders of our ancestors. And so to remember that we do have resilience and things will change. Yeah. And also to remember that actually, coming back specifically to the US politics, that actually it wasn't a huge landslide. And I think this is really important, that actually the amount, so there is hope that the tide can change, that actually the number of votes that Trump won by, it wasn't huge. And I think that can get lost again, because you tend to think it was a huge landslide. So yeah, and just remembering, you know, our siblings who are, you know, surviving the struggle in Sudan, our siblings who are surviving genocide on the West Bank in Gaza, you know, our siblings who are surviving in Myanmar, you know, our siblings who are being killed in war in the Ukraine, in Russia. And, you know, and just coming back to, as a Buddhist practitioner, we do not believe in harm. We do not believe in killing. We do not believe in harm, in harming another. Yeah. Mm. So, yeah. Mm. 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 Well, we could end with metta practice, and unless oh, great, Jane. Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello. Yes, I can hear you.
I don't think I'm above the screen, but I will just want to thank you. And just at that end, I was thinking about I teach breathing techniques, and I was really struck by today being about breathing because I have a chronic illness and I have treatments every month. And this past month's treatment, one of the side effects was I was really having a hard time breathing.
Mm.
And my breathing was very, I was like gasping.
Mm.
It was very, you know, that kind of thing. And what was so beautiful was I just sat with that and just like put my hand on my heart and just kept sending healing energy to my breath. And within about a few minutes, my breath slowed down and it just became really gentle and easy. And I just want to thank you because breathing really is so paramount to our dysregulation when we're dysregulated. And to be able to recognize that and be able to re-regulate by changing my breathing just really had a huge impact on me. So thank you.
Thank you for that beautiful teaching, Jane. Very beautiful, and it's reminded me, actually. I'll end this with this, and then we'll do a little bit of loving kindness. That actually, you know, we're in a culture now where people are talking about microdosing and microdosing psilocybin and blah 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 and whatever, and you know, which is fine. But what I want to say is actually we can be microdosing with the breath. you know. And actually I do, when I'm kind of back out there working, I microdose by doing some 10 or 15 minutes pranayama breathing in the morning, and actually it really does have an impact. So just to let you know, again, breath is medicine, and we can microdose with the breath. So rather than just, which is different from actually being in meditation and, with the breath, but again, that can regulate, but actually we can really have a blast of medicine when we work with a breath through pranayama breathing or holotropic breathing. There's so many different breath exercises to do. Yeah. Of course, I have to be aware of not getting addicted. Can we get addicted to the breath? Yeah, we most probably are. But anyway, so let's just thank you. Just again, thank you. It's been a beautiful, moving, touching time being with all of you today. And a lovely way to enter into this new Gregorian year, and to remind us that a new year can be anytime, So if you want to start your new year today, start it today. You want to start it in a week's time, start it in a week's time. And of course, we have the Chinese New Year coming up upon our heels. So yeah, one breath at a time. Yeah. So again, was on retreat with Renee and Delalia, and or Delila, a bit dyslexic with words, and they had this beautiful refrain of exalted, abundant, immeasurable, reminding us of the Brahma Viharas, exalted, abundant, immeasurable. And I'm really experiencing a lot of abundant love for each and every one of you right now. Yeah. May your heart, mind be steeped in loving kindness. And really see if you can feel the loving kindness in your body. And just know that actually it may be experienced as uncomfortable. Often we think like, oh, we're doing loving kindness and we're doing compassion and we're supposed to feel all this kind of blissful, beautiful experience. And actually for some people, connecting with loving kindness can be experienced as uncomfortable. And that is the loving kindness. So just breathe. Yeah. And just loving the part and liking the part that brought you here today. Yeah. Like that part of you that brought you here today. And own your uniqueness. Own it. Take up space. Own your uniqueness. And place a hand anywhere on the body and feel the warmth of your hand validating your existence. Yeah. Go on. Feel the warmth of your hand validating your existence. And eradicate some of those thoughts that get in the way of your freedom. Just ask them to step aside for a moment, just for a moment, just for now. If they can step aside so you can embrace this moment and have a moment of freedom so that you can experience your body being steeped in loving kindness. So thank you. Thank you for the beautiful affirmations in the chat. If you're able to, if you could turn on your cameras and just take a moment to look at each other on screen. We do this work together in community. We don't do it on our own. So just take a moment and radiate loving kindness towards each other. Hey, and then I see Carol pop up in the middle of my screen. So yeah, just radiate loving kindness to everyone on the screen and receive at the same time. It's not separate. So as you're radiating loving kindness towards everyone, receive at the same time. And we're radiating loving kindness to those of you whose screens are off as well. And sometimes your screen just needs to be off. And just receive, just know that we're radiating it towards your name and just receive. Yeah. Sabe sata sukhi hontu. Sabe sata sukhi hontu. May all beings be happy. May all beings be well. May all beings be free from suffering. Homia takwite for all my relations. Ashe, ashe, ashe. A ma ho. Thank you. Go well. Step back into your world with peace, with loving kindness.